All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And thank you all. It is it's a somber time in America. Although Kim just told me that notwithstanding the fact that, in my judgment, an innocent American was executed on the streets of Minneapolis, Melania's movie was screened as scheduled. So, yeah, not to be derailed from a scheduled. It's a documentary, right, Kim?
Yeah.
That she does?
Yeah, it's a documentary. It's called what is it called? Melania.
I think it's called Melania.
Just Melania. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was perhaps lost in all of the carnage, which has become so much a part of American life. Thank you for being here, everybody. We'll take you through a lot of video. I'll take you through some government reaction. It is, as I've pointed out to you since the very beginning, this is an Orwellian time, which is very much associated with don't believe your eyes, don't trust what you see, believe what the state tells you. Yeah, we have some disagreement, I know. There are people who disagree, even who are on this show, with what I generally think is a pretty open and shut case. I will tell you, just as a preamble, I get that when you've got guys videoing you and you've got cameras in your face and you've got shouting and whistles and all of that, I get that that's a tense situation. That's why there is training. That's why they send in riot police. They send in specially trained officers who are trained to de-escalate and to not rise to the bait. Also, just not rise to a feverish situation. When you see people being dragged out of cars, when you see children and their parents being separated, when you see the kind of family and social disruption that we have seen, and that's to be polite about it. I'm leaving aside the mortal danger that apparently everyone is in. When you see that, you can understand as a community that you show up en masse, and that's exactly what's happened. This community doesn't want these poorly, if at all trained, Border Patrol people and ICE officials on their streets. They don't want them hitting their cars, breaking the car windows, pulling people out with apparent confidence that anything they do will be pardoned or ignored. They drag people out who otherwise wouldn't even be part of this scene under the guise of looking for people who are perpetrating crimes in this country illegally. They are detaining and now it appears killing American citizens. What they've done is turned Minneapolis upside down, and they've done this elsewhere. They did it in LA. They're doing it in Louisiana. So my point is simply, if you're looking at this and going, well, you know, these guys are human beings, man. I mean, you know, you get in their face, they're gonna, no, they're poorly trained human beings. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. You live, I'm sure, across the country in a city where officers are trained as to how to cuff an individual and detain an individual. You don't need 6 guys in LA. They don't need 6 people to arrest someone or to detain them. They just don't. You know why? Because they're well trained. I mean, this is insanity what these guys do. Look at these ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, and that's another issue. They brought in Border Patrol, and Border Patrol is not good with things like crowd control, dealing with these heated situations. That's not what Border Patrol does. In working the border, there are a number of other things that they probably have been trained in that don't pertain to a kind of urban confrontation situation, which is exactly what these guys are dealing with in Minnesota. So you put them now in a situation where there's 6 guys driving around in an SUV, or they're walking down the street trying to maintain order while their very presence stirs the pot, and you have already tensions at a feverish level. And then the unspeakable happens, right? Yeah, there's a great situation in which, there is, and I don't know if I should call them agents or should call them, I don't know what they are. I mean, some of them have been with the force and the ICE crew for years, and some have been there for hours. I mean, there is, as we know, a bonus being offered. Incredible amounts of money are flowing into these organizations, the Department of Homeland Security. And so these clearly poorly or untrained authorities under the shield of ICE and Customs and Border get into a confrontation with this guy, Alex Pretti. And Alex Pretti is not someone with a history of activism, with a history of violence, with a criminal history. He's an ER nurse for the vets. He is the best of us. There he is in the street, directing traffic while also shooting the video. And he sees these agents dealing with a woman. They've just pushed the woman down, you see, and he goes over to help her. And now he is in this rugby scrum of hostilities and tensions associated with these guys. I'll show you the video. Tony's got, I think, a wrap package on it. We'll show you the video, the reaction, and then I want to focus on, and this is the Orwellian part, the fact that the state denies facts that are clearly in evidence based on there's another angle where he's getting pepper sprayed. He's got his back turned. He's shoved down. I mean, these are clear images that show that these officers are just not threatened. So he is grabbed as he tries to help her up. And the weapon that he has on him, you can't even see because he's, again, he's a licensed firearm carrier in Minnesota. But more to the point, these guys aren't in any mortal danger whatsoever. And again, the tensions, I get it. The whistling, the shouting, the obscenities, it's all, I get it. That's what you're going to get in all American cities now. But there's no attempt to de-escalate. Quite the contrary. There's a thuggish, brutish, craven, wanton aspect to everything they are doing. The brutality is the idea. We are scaring you. So when you say, well, they're not even going after illegal immigrants, it looks like they're just harassing people. Yeah, that is the idea. The scare is the idea. They want people frightened of authority. So throw me the wrap package from, this is CBS, I think, with a wrap package, and it contains a bunch, and then I will play you Bovino and Noem, who kind of Bovino, of course, heads up Customs and Border. It was one of his guys who discharged the weapon. And then Noem, of course, she runs everything under Homeland Security. Go ahead.
There is a developing story in Minnesota, of course, where state officials and the federal government are at odds over who is really responsible for the death of an ICU nurse. The Trump administration is saying a federal agent feared for his life when 37-year-old Alex Pretti reportedly pulled a gun. But Minnesota leaders say that's not what happened. Our CBS News teams have been poring over videos of the shooting from several witnesses who were there, frame by frame. CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skanga shows us exactly what led up to the moment the federal agent pulled the trigger, killing Pretti. But first, a warning, some of the images you're about to see are disturbing.
About 2 minutes before the shooting, Alex Pretti is seen arguing with officers. One officer pushes him back, and an individual is detained as Pretti's argument with officers continues. Pretti, holding a cell phone, was allegedly there as an observer to document what was happening. About a minute later, Pretti is seen standing in the street, filming, directing a car past him. An officer then approaches another apparent observer and pushes her. She moves to Pretti and holds him by the waist, and the officer approaches and pushes Pretti. A second woman walks over. The officer pushes her to the ground, then sprays Pretti with a chemical irritant. Pretti raises his hands to block the spray. Pretti and the first woman then move to assist the woman who is knocked down, and the officer continues to spray. Several more officers arrive and drag Pretti onto the ground. An officer in gray reaches into the struggle and comes out holding a gun that appears to match a photo of a gun released by the Department of Homeland Security. In this video, obtained by CBS News, you can clearly see the gun being removed from Pretti's waist by the officer. The first shot is fired about 1 second later. Slowed to a quarter speed, you can see and hear how quickly the shot follows the gun's removal. In another angle, you can see an agent watch as the gun is removed from Pretti's waistband before the agent pulls his own gun and fires at the kneeling Pretti. The officers move away from Pretti as at least one of them continues to fire. Pretti does not appear to be moving. Around 10 shots are fired in total by law enforcement. After approximately 45 seconds, at least one officer eventually moves in and kneels next to Pretti.
So, to me, that's clear. To many others, it's clear. The disarming of a man who never was brandishing that weapon to begin with, that's a total fiction. The idea somehow that these officers, I'll just call them, were being threatened by this guy, that's just patently false. And again, I default to, I get it. Everybody's irritated. Everybody's angry. You can view this guy as harassing you, but he's not really. He's chronicling everything with video, and he's, you're shoving people around and you're roughing people up, and he's helping people up, and I don't know what he's saying, but there's no history in this guy that isn't the best of us. He's an ER nurse.
ICU.
Intensive care nurse, as it is.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Here
Which
was
means it's the sickest people at the very end of their lives, veterans who've served the country. That's
Here was the narrative that emerged immediately after. Play me the Bovino and Noem as they both speak in unison with the prepared, clearly, statement that they're going forward with. This was right away. They wanted to seize the narrative. And here is Bovino, who runs Customs and Border, and Noem, who, of course, runs the whole shebang, which is Department of Homeland Security. Go ahead, Tony.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic
handgun.
The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. An individual approached...
There you go. That is the total fiction that the state, in an Orwellian way, provide for us. He showed up brandishing the weapon. Brandishing the weapon, never unholstered the weapon through the whole thing. Show me Bovino trying to defend this on CNN, if you will, please, Tony. This is Bovino again. He runs custom. It was his guy, one of his guys who did this.
To us from every angle, sir, that he was approached by them when he was helping another individual who was pushed down. What evidence do you have that he was assaulting any law enforcement?
Dana, we don't need a suspect's help in an active law enforcement scene.
When you say suspect, what is he suspected of?
That's an active law enforcement scene. He knew that was an active law enforcement scene, especially when the officers approached him, and it's very evident he did not need to be where he was.
When somebody is pushed down and a person's instinct is to help that person, when somebody's pushed down by law enforcement, you're saying that you just stand back and let law enforcement do what they're doing?
You know, Dana, every situation is different. What our officers are faced with here in Minneapolis are chaotic, very difficult and violent situations in which individuals, and this suspect is not the only one to bring a loaded weapon to a riot. The situations are chaotic and ever-changing. Follow directions for law enforcement. Don't inject yourself knowingly beforehand into a law enforcement situation.
With respect, it feels as though in some ways you're blaming the victim here.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victim are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
I just want to also go back to what I was asking about with regard to what Secretary Noem said, that he was brandishing a gun. At any point, do you have any evidence that, yes, he had a gun on his person? Was he brandishing it?
We heard the law enforcement officer say gun, gun, gun. So at some point, they knew there was a gun. So again, that is going to be part of that investigation as to what was happening on the ground there between those victims, the Border Patrol agent victims, and the suspect.
It looked.
Yeah. The gun, gun, gun was screamed after the guy was on his face on the asphalt. That's when gun, gun, gun was uttered. So he was already immobilized effectively by 6 guys. So I guess, Tony, you're showing me the gun. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's the gun.
Yeah. Again, that was, taken afterward. The other thing that is, I think, very relevant is that the scene is not secured by the feds. And Minnesota, this is true in the Good killing, that's her last name, Good. What was her first name, Kim?
Renee,
right. Renee Good. The state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison is the attorney general there, is having to sue to have the federal government secure these scenes so that they can get evidence. They're having to secure these 2 scenes of federal overreach in the way of mortally taking out 2 American citizens. They're having to sue to protect the evidence. The government is in the business of establishing their own narrative, as I've just shown you, and they have their own narrative with Renee Good as well. And in order to serve that narrative, they don't want any evidence around. As a result, they're not letting local officials and state officials who are trained in evidence gathering, they're not letting them move forward. And they have their own investigative arms that haven't gotten involved yet. I'm talking about the federal government. This is a government absolutely untethered by the Constitution and by the constitutional rights of its citizens. Show me the protest, Tony. There was quite a show of protest in Minnesota, a crowd in Minnesota protesting the presence of these federal ICE agents and Customs and Border agents. This is following the shooting. And if you can't get that, you got, here it is. Thank you. This is, I think, shot by drone or something. Look at all these people. Yeah, it's a crowd that has seen enough Minnesotans pouring into the streets to stand up against ICE agents and Border Patrol. So I would say this is a situation that is overflowing for Donald Trump politically. I don't think Donald Trump cares about the lives of anybody. And so that part, I think, just doesn't land. I mean, the true humanity of this situation is lost on these people. Anybody with any sense of humanity would not be behind the wanton horror that is being perpetrated on people who are American citizens, not American citizens, here illegally, not here legally. There is no plan. There is no blueprint. These are thugs. And these goons are being turned loose on Minnesota, and they're being turned loose on other cities as well. And it is all of a kind. It is a Stephen Miller blueprint, but Donald Trump's signed off on it. And I think politically, and this is the only thing I think he cares about, politically, it's becoming a bit of an albatross for him. So we'll see. It's a weight politically.
Today he's sending, instead of Noem to Minnesota, he's sending Homan to Minnesota.
And Homan, again, you know, it's degrees of awfulness. Noem is she's such a BS artist, and her BS is wearing thin. So let's bring in the other BS artist, Homan. You know, the guy who took $50,000 in a Chipotle bag in return for favors before he assumed office. He was part of an FBI sting. He was stung by the sting. So anyway, he goes in. And we'll see what happens. I have a sneeze coming. Sorry.
No, I want to tell you, we saw all the people that have protested. Another protest is set for today. And in California, that would be a big enough deal. But in Minnesota, those protesters are braving weather that is crazy cold. The temperature, according to the National Weather Service, is currently minus 12 degrees. The wind chill factor forecast to drop as low as minus 40 degrees, and it could cause, they say, frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 12 minutes.
That's unreal. Yeah, well, you're right. Thank you, because that does put it in a context, doesn't it?
That many people out in that kind of weather, they're mad and they're angry and they're willing to be uncomfortable and they're willing to be passionate and to show it.
The popularity of the entire thing has, as you might imagine, cratered. And Donald Trump's popularity with it. But the calls to abolish ICE while getting louder don't really have any credibility per se, but defunding or reducing the funding for ICE does. And there is a move on Capitol Hill in the Senate to completely prevent any additional funding to ICE. Now, I should make this point. They're due for, what is it, Kim? Another, I want to say it's 10. You can find the number for me. But the point, the broader point, and actually the more important point, is that they already have so much money. I've made this this point to you several times, because I think, you know, the supercharged nature of ICE and Department of Homeland Security is something that should be something that you're outraged by, and yet it skated through with a lot of support in the early days of the Trump administration. How much is what is the latest appropriations bill? Do you have it?
I'm looking at it.
Anyway, but it won't affect their operations, is my point, because they already have so much money online in the pipeline. So that's that. There's another part of this which has to do with the voter rolls, and I want to get into that with Gary Dietrich. I've got Dietrich standing by, so I don't want to wait too much longer, but I'll talk to Gary about this. And again, when you are facing the clarity that we all have about what happened and the narrative that flies in the face of that clarity, I think it leaves this administration and these people, these key people, Bovino, Noem, even Trump, although Trump has, while he took to social media to say, this guy's an activist, this guy's a, you know, they jump right to it. And then when you say, what's going on here? They killed this guy. Well, let's wait. I mean, the video seems to go against your narrative. Let's wait. This is awful that you jump to conclusions. We jump to conclusions. You guys are out there with a Klieg light and a microphone 6 minutes after the guy's dead. The $64.4 billion bill, which includes roughly $10 billion. That's it. That's what I'm sure for ICE. It passed the House, but in the Senate, it may be held up. Anyway. That's Go ahead.
I was going to just quickly say, I saw Kristi, to your point, Kristi Noem on Fox, and she was, at every hard question asked, well, she would say, that's what the investigation will show us. Well, we're going to investigate. That's why we're looking at all the video. That's why we're looking at everything. They're not. And that's why the courts have to step in and ask them to preserve all of the evidence, because they say they're looking at it and no one trusts them anymore.
Well, that's exactly what Keith Ellison is doing, who's the Attorney General of Minnesota. He's in court today to demand, as Kim has noted, through court order, that evidence be preserved. Imagine that. After federal agents assassinate somebody on the asphalt in Minneapolis, the Attorney General of the state has to sue to keep the evidence such that there can be an investigation.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show. Mondays bring a special visitor to our midst. He is the political analyst for iHeart Radio, also for the CBS television stations. He's the brilliant Gary Dietrich. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Mark, and sadly, another tragic Monday as we start this week. I've heard a little bit of your intro on this, but certainly a lot going on in our nation again yet today.
So let's start at the beginning with this incident and these officers. They're Customs and Border people. That might come as right away a surprise because Minneapolis is a ways from the border, right? But they're being called in conjunction with ICE to pursue this policy of rooting out illegals here in America. That's the idea?
Yeah, I mean, that's the presumptive idea. And of course, people are asking why Minnesota. The politics of sort of addressing the what some think is the Somali immigrant community that was, tied into the fraud allegations in Minnesota. I mean, this thing is such a gigantic ball of twine right now, Mark. But really, to get to the nub of this thing, the hue and cry, even on Capitol Hill, is really growing for a couple things. If I could just offer this up right at the start. One is a joint federal and state investigation, which, as you know, the Trump administration has resisted, but increasingly members of the GOP delegation in the House and the Senate are calling for that. Secondly, as you noted in your lead-in, the DHS bill has been separated from the other funding bills, and it is really now absolutely hung up in the Senate. You rightly pointed out it did pass through the House, even with some Democratic votes. And now it's hung up in the Senate and is likely to be for a while, it looks like. You're right that it has a $10 billion price tag associated with it. And then the third part about this, Mark, is the very interesting politics that's going on about this incident over the weekend, where even members, as you know, of organizations that are really huge supporters of the Second Amendment are not buying the Trump administration's concerns about somebody. This gentleman apparently had a valid permit to carry that firearm, and the Second Amendment folks are saying, "Hey, wait a minute, we don't want you doing away with that." So the politics of this is becoming very, very interesting. There's a lot of pressure on the Trump administration, you can imagine right now, which is why this morning the president took Governor Walz's phone call, and both of them said it was a good phone call. We'll see where that goes.
The scramble to build a narrative immediately was such a hurried scramble that it blew right past what you just suggested, which is the Second Amendment. It was, he's brandishing a weapon. Once it was clear he's not brandishing a weapon. You can look at the video and see he's not brandishing a weapon. He never unholstered his gun. He had a telephone. He had an effing cell phone, and he was using that to video. And I was saying before, these guys, I get it. there's this whistling, honking, get out of here. There are a bunch of invectives being hurled. It's probably a super tense situation, but trained officials should be able to de-escalate, ignore, etc. These guys have a thuggery about them that seems deliberate, Gary.
Yeah, well, the concern, Mark, is exactly what you noted. And the debate is over what transpired. That's why so much, interest in the actual video footage from a whole variety of angles. But the concern expressed by the officers was somebody actually having a weapon and approaching them, apparently to film them with the cell phone. But that's where the Second Amendment concerns come in. You're right to point out, Mark, and I think this is why some GOP members, including Jim Comer, who's a big-time Republican House member, said yesterday on one of the Sunday shows, look, we need to see Minnesota probably needs to be de-escalated, including potentially even pulling ICE out of Minneapolis at this point. Because, Mark, the bigger concern is where this goes from here. Not that these two individual deaths aren't tragic, because they absolutely are. But just imagine, what if 10 or 20 or 30 people approach these officers? What if half of them happen to be carrying, even legally? What if they had something in their hands that people, I mean, can you imagine, the potential for a number, almost a mass shooting happening? I mean, this situation, everybody agrees in Minnesota, is a powder keg, and it's got to be de-escalated by somebody or somebody's soon.
So the second part of this is about communication from Pam Bondi. And by the way, I don't mean to even move past. I have to move past because we have other issues. As you say, there's so many facets to this. But this guy, Alex Pretti, was an exceptional guy, apparently. He really seems like the best of us, He's working in the vet administration. He's working in the ICU. He's after the loss of someone who passed away in the ICU, he led everyone there in his unit in prayer and in remembrance and kind of a mini memorial service. My God, this is the best of us. And they killed this guy in cold blood, and I don't want to move past it, but there are other aspects of it, because he and the mayhem, I'll just say that has been wrought, is being used now by Pam Bondi as leverage to get voter rolls and other information. Play for, if you would, for Gary, play the Raskin stuff real quick. This is Jamie Raskin reacting to the Bondi letter, which said, if you want ICE out, send us the voter rolls and voter lists from Minnesota. Go ahead.
People are getting the sense that this is a government out of control. The letter that was sent yesterday by Attorney General Bondi gives the game away. It has nothing to do with immigration. Yep. They want now the voter lists from Minnesota. This is all about trying to control our democracy and to control the population. So the people of Minnesota heroically have demonstrated, building on the success of people in Chicago, in Portland, in LA, in DC, that if we hang together in total solidarity across geographic lines, across political lines, we can defeat this. But this is where we are now. And so we need everybody who's in public office to be working with everybody who's in political leadership in the streets to oppose authoritarianism in America.
So speak to the Bondi stuff, especially, if you would, please, Gary.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important on both sides of the aisle to keep the main thing, Mark. And that's the potential for death, as we've already seen twice now. What are you going to do to have the federal and state and local authorities cooperate? Whether it be this or a whole host of other issues, Mark, that is absolutely essential. You cannot have, right, the federal and state governments at each other's throats, literally, the invectives, the lawsuits, the lack of cooperation. That's just not sustainable in a free society, right? So we have those issues. As far as the voter rolls, presumably that's an attempt to be able to identify those who are undocumented, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is, this is the wrong time to ask for those by Bondi, obviously. I think the concern from members of Congress on the Republican side is, look, people are supportive of getting criminals out of the country who may be here without documentation. Beyond that, all these other things, we need to begin to scale some of this back. I mean, I just think the other problem, Mark, from a larger perspective is there are a host of issues that have to be addressed here, even during a midterm year. And this is just obviously and somewhat understandably taking all the oxygen out of the room, you know, and it's problematic. I mean, you've got things that are going on. There's going to be huge restoration and rebuilding efforts. 12 people died during the big storms that just happened this weekend. You've still got the LA fires. I mean, there's just a host of things that this Congress and this administration, in partnership with state governments, have got to address.
Well, wrapped up in the $10 billion that now is being contested in the Senate for ICE, that package includes FEMA money. You know, it's not, these packages are all kind of wound together, some of them, and even as they try to break out the ICE money, there's other stuff in it. So the argument is, well, if you don't fund this, then you neglect these other programs that desperately need our help. So as usual, government's a complex, nuanced thing. And yet it seems like in the new America, everything is what seizes the cycle and also seems to be the thing that decision-making is focused on. I wonder if you feel as though play a little bit of AOC on this, and she's such a divisive figure, I guess, but she speaks about, I shouldn't say I guess. I mean, look, I guess everybody's divisive again in the new America, whatever. I think she touches on something that you mentioned in regard to this and in regard to these situations that these ICE agents and Homeland Security people are increasingly going to find themselves in. They're going to find themselves in crowds where people have weapons because they are licensed to have those weapons. And that creates even more of a powder keg. Here is AOC.
This is the intention of what Secretary Noem is discussing. I mean, it is, how rich is it that she is saying, showing up to the scene of a protest with a legally owned weapon should be grounds for a person's death, execution at the hands of the state, by the same party and the same administration that praises Kyle Rittenhouse. When she is talking about how merely showing up and inciting violence based on ideology against the government, when this administration has pardoned hundreds of January 6 rioters who have then gone out into the streets and recommitted crimes of violence over and over again. What Secretary Noem is saying is not that you can't do these things, is not that you can't be armed, is not that you can't attack your government. She just thinks that you can't do that based on your political affiliation. And that is just, I mean, the uncorking of chaos that this administration is trying to attempt against the American people is escalatory, it is dangerous, and it is a complete abdication of leadership. We cannot go down this road. We cannot have countrymen against countrymen, citizen against citizen. This is not the America that we believe in. It is not the America that we stand in, and we must unite together against this kind of very dangerous splintering that they are seeking to incite against people and divide us.
I mean, I think she makes a good point about the nature of this administration and of America now. There is a division that feels as though it's a greater cleavage than ever.
Yeah, Mark, I think AOC points out two very interesting things. One is the obvious political paradox that you and I both touched on, and that is AOC defending somebody carrying a weapon, right? I mean, that in and of itself is going to be a really interesting thing to watch play out here in the next few weeks. But the other point she makes that you're alluding to that I'm very concerned about is, what if people on both sides of this are now brandishing weapons in these demonstrations, right? What if this goes beyond? There's been so much, frankly, tragic, in my view, talk about quote unquote civil war over the last couple of years, right? And you look at some of the polling, and it's remarkable to see the percentages on both sides who see a certain inevitability to this. That should scare the daylights out of every American. And I just wonder, Mark, you know, are we getting closer to a scenario where people are, very worked up, come to these kind of events, maybe brandishing weapons on both sides. And then what happens, right? Then the unthinkable happens, where literally citizen is taking on citizen with weaponry. I mean, I think, God forbid we cross that Rubicon.
Let me just take this. When I say divisive equals woman of color speaking truth, says DeHogville, please, man. I could have said Bernie, if Bernie Sanders had said it, I would have said the same thing. Don't pull that crap on me, man. Don't tell me. If I use the word divisive, I meant she is a cut through figure who represents a more extreme wing of her party. And in that way, I just played her, and both of us agreed she's a truth teller on this. So, sorry, but I just get a little agitated sometime when, I try to describe somebody in an instant. If that wasn't the right word, DeHogville, you give me the right word, okay, and I'll describe it that way.
And to be fair, Mark, there's many in her own party that use that language to describe her within their own ranks. So, I think semantics, they are important, but I think anybody that knows Mark Thompson and watches the show knows where you're coming from.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to pivot to something nothing to do with this, because there's a lot going on internationally as well, as we know. But before I do, I want to be clear on the AOC remarks, because we went back and forth, and she was referencing the Rittenhouse incident in which he was there with a weapon, and she was saying, essentially, you guys are totally representing hypocrisy here, because you said it was fine for him to be there with a weapon, but you now don't want this other guy there with a weapon, and you actually say it's grounds to kill him. And for that reason, you find yourselves in a total hypocrisy, as I say. I don't know that she was saying that everybody should have a weapon or have the right to have a weapon. In other words, I don't think she's given up her gun posture, Gary, completely. That is to say, anti-gun posture. But I think she was making that distinction with Rittenhouse. Let me ask you about what's happening internationally, because we're coming off of Davos. We're coming off of the madness of Greenland. It appears that Trump backed off completely, and in so doing is taking something of a tepid victory lap, saying we got everything we wanted in the Greenland deal. It appears that, and we all know, we have what we always have with Greenland. I'd say it's worse than that, though, because he's sort of damaged a lot of relationships in 1 week that might have been bruised, but now they could be broken.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't use the word broken, Mark, but I certainly think in need of rehabilitation is obvious at this point. Okay. And I think it's given the Europeans pause, I don't think, and to be clear, there were never any specific plans. And I've been saying this for a while, the idea that we were going to have some kind of a military, conflict with allies over Greenland. I think that was, you often use the word Trump bluster. I think that's exactly what it was. It was overplayed. I think it was not helpful in the long run. In the end, what's become really clear is that what really is wanted is basically unfettered use of Greenland to help construct the so-called Golden Dome defense system from missiles coming from Russia, et cetera, China to the U.S. I mean, this is what it's about. And, let's just see where this all plays out. I have no doubt that at this juncture, is there even going to be a continued play to put Greenland under the American flag? I have my serious doubts about that. But when Trump says we got everything we wanted, I think it's basically, look, we're the big kids on the block. We're the ones that can defend NATO and Greenland best. We're going in. We're going to build the infrastructure. We're going to make it happen. I mean, I think that's the bottom line here. As far as the other relationships, you're right, Mark. There was even a big, potential breakup with Canada, during that Davos week. That looks like it's been repaired somewhat. But
what's the status of the 100% tariffs that he's threatening because of China's, I guess, warming of relations from a trade standpoint with Canada?
Yeah, 100% tariffs are not going to happen. That came out over the weekend. It was basically, he was concerned that Canada was kind of going to make their own deal with China. the Canadian Prime Minister said, no, we have this trilateral agreement with Mexico, Canada, US, that we're all going to agree to, any unsavory nation, we're going to set boundaries on that, not singularly, but together. That's supposed to be renegotiated apparently this summer. So for now, the 100% tariff is off the table.
I was reading something. I read a bunch of op-eds in the New York Times this weekend, and one of them was headlined, I believe, "We can't survive 3 more years of this." And of course, and then I read through, and when you detail all of the different things that have happened, the pardoning of all the J6ers, the removal of all the inspectors general, the ways in which regulatory agencies have been completely defanged, the recklessness of DOJ, and the way in which indeed government records were scraped of personal voter and taxpayer information. There's been a chaos, and the self-enrichment, the Qatari jet, the meme coin, and the crypto platform that allowed for all the moneying of Donald Trump in ways that we'll never know. I mean, I know the New York Times did a big detailed thing that he's made $1.5 billion. I think that figure could be off by 75% because of the crypto. It did in me reignite anxieties about the next 3 years. It's been a year of this administration, and I wonder if you could speak to how you see the next 3 years unfolding.
Well, I think, Mark, there is one gigantic potential pivot point that is a complete game changer. It seems like I mention it almost every week, and that is coming up in 9.5 months, the midterm elections. It is impossible to overstate how consequential that is, for the simple reason that if one or both of the chambers of Congress is then controlled by the Democrats, and it's hard to believe it's just less than 10 months away, when that election day occurs, if that happens, the second half of the Trump administration is going to be severely hamstrung. Just take the House, okay, where all fiscal measures must originate. That means that all these bills that we're now talking about, like the funding of DHS and all, that process would be completely controlled by Democrats. I mean, the funding of everything. I mean, from the Department of Homeland Security to the Defense Department, now Department of War, of course. I mean, all of it. Robert Kennedy and the Health Administration. I mean, all of that would be impacted. Not to mention, of course, the unleashing with what everyone would expect would be investigations, potential calls for impeachment again. I mean, it is difficult to overstate how consequential that election day in 9.5 months is going to be. Conversely, it's obvious that if it doesn't go that way and Republicans are able to retain control, depending on what kind of Republicans are elected and what those margins are, then yes, Trump could have a semi or somewhat less fettered next 3 years.
Let me be a little bit of an alarmist here, maybe you'd think, and suggest the following. Based on what we've seen, there's a lot in this administration that doesn't really care about Congress or the courts. They're willing to try to do things and get away with whatever they can. And so I wonder to what extent, and this happened in the first season, the first 4 years, Trump won when he wanted the wall money and Congress wouldn't give him the wall money. And he jackhammered it out of the Pentagon. He got them. I mean, tens of billions of dollars he got. I'm wondering to what extent you think, clearly, I guess implied in your response is you think that this administration will be restrained by Congress. But there is an aspect of this administration that feels that they are on some sort of holy mission, it would seem, for the soul of America, to return America to what it was. And we won't view Congress or the courts as an impediment.
Oh, well, I have no doubt, Mark, that there would be a lot of kicking and screaming inside the Trump administration. Don't get me wrong. And there'd be a flurry of executive orders. And yes, you're right, attempted workarounds. But see, part of the problem is that if you have a House of Congress, they have their own powers of investigation and subpoena powers, right? We've seen that with the Clintons even last week. They also could potentially pass legislation, ask for the Supreme Court to rule on things. Yes, Supreme Court might tilt Trump's in favor in some things. But if Congress and the executive branch are at loggerheads over a certain issue, that's going to give the Supreme Court even more pause. So I think that I'm not saying midterms are everything, but they are certainly a huge thing.
All right. Well, with that, we are out of time, but so appreciate your takes always, my friend. These are troubled times in this country, and I appreciate you putting them into some perspective and some context for us. Thanks. Gary Dietrich, everybody. Bye, Gary. Gary's segment sponsored by Bill Campbell at RE/MAX Gold. If you're relocating into or from Northern California, we have many Northern California listeners and viewers. You want a highly respected real estate professional? Bill Campbell, RE/MAX Gold. Bill is your guy. You can text him or call him. 530-448-7474. 530-448-7474. Bill Campbell, RE/MAX Gold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on. Welcome. I have first news. Sad news, actually, but not, Sarah Kendzior, who's usually here on Mondays, she's had a loss in her family and she won't be here today. She will be back with us next week. So I know many turn out, as do I. That's one of the reasons I show up on Mondays to talk to Sarah, but she's not with us today. But I do have other breaking news. Yeah, I've got breaking news, and it's I think it's kind of a major announcement, actually, if I can say.
Major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
A major announcement.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We have,
Wow.
that is, man, I've forgotten what that major announcement thing sounds like. Yeah. We have a new sponsor on the show. I mean, a new sponsor. First time we've ever mentioned, and I couldn't be more excited about Suite 106. It's SUITE, like a suite of offices or a suite of,
Well, it came from where the restaurant started, or sorry, where the bakery started.
Yeah, it started in a suite, Suite 106. So this is Suite 106 Bakery. It's run by, now this is a small business, and I brought Courtney, and that's that voice you hear. Courtney, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Why don't I have such fanfare to welcome me every time I'm on?
Courtney, everybody, please. All right, thank you. All right. All right. Founded by a female entrepreneur, Kristi Noem, and she is not just somebody who bakes. She is a virtuoso baker.
Oh my God, she's amazing. First of all, female founder, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, CEO.
Yeah, but
built Suite 106 Bakery. Yeah, but
she's
also
a two-time winner of Food Network Cupcake Wars, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, her cupcakes were voted the best in America. She was also on the OWN network, and Suite 106 Bakery has been a favorite of celebrities, big corporations. She's amazing. All of her ingredients are locally sourced. It's a family-run business. It's extraordinary. And we're so lucky because she's also, we need another fanfare, a huge fan of Mark Thompson.
Wow.
And that is, I know. She clearly doesn't know him that well. But she's a huge fan of Mark Thompson. Her parents are a huge fan of Mark Thompson. They've been watching him on Fox for many years. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Here's mine. But that's
that was so excited.
That was an added bonus.
To be part of our family here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
She was excited to be part of the family, which is really cool. I want to mention the way she found us was so lovely. She heard about us through Coachella Valley Coffee. And we've had such success. You know, our viewers and listeners are great to support our sponsors, and we take a lot of care. We don't just take anybody on as a sponsor. We have, I'd say, we have 3 sponsors right now, and we've vetted them, and we've made sure that the stuff is good. So here's what we did with Suite 106. Courtney and I, and again, you know, were she just a fan of the show or a female entrepreneur, that'd be great, but it wouldn't be enough for us to get her on the show, okay? Because we wanted to see about the product. So we got a bunch of stuff delivered, and Courtney and I had like a decadent week of trying everything. So we tried the cookies, we tried the brownies, we tried the and I'm telling you,
so good.
I could fill a bathtub full of that layered cupcake. You must get this layered cupcake. Oh my God! But I loved everything. And then I got more of it, brought it to my poker game, and those guys are like shoving it in their face like it's their last day on earth. Yeah.
Mark's other family.
My other family, my poker game. Anyway, this is all, we are effusive because it's so good.
It's so good. And it's so timely too, because Valentine's Day, Mark can tell you, he has it on the calendar.
Oh, I love Valentine's Day.
It's absolutely
there
something
is no
he looks
romance
forward to every day.
like we have in our
house. I will
house.
say he did take me to a murder podcast taping on Valentine's Day, so it's going to be hard to match that kind of gift. But she has, Kristi and the team have this incredible Valentine's Day bundle for the cupcake cakes and for the cookies. Now, the cupcake cakes, there's 3.5 cupcakes in each of the packages. It's layered.
It's
and
so
it's
good.
easy to transport. And you could buy them and give them all to one person or give them to different people. And they're all self-contained in these gorgeous packaging.
And I might say that they're all freshly made. You may say, oh, well, they've got to send these all out. So are they have them waiting at a factory? No. They make them. All these batches are made in their bakery. They are as fresh as possible. And so I want everybody to show up for them. You'll be glad you did. And as Courtney says, with Valentine's Day coming, they have a Valentine's Day special. Sweet 106 Bakery, SUITE 106bakery.com. Here is the best part. If you're a listener or viewer of this show, you get a discount of 15% using our discount.
What?
I know. 15% off at checkout. Mark T is the discount code. Mark T at checkout. Sweet 106 Bakery. Again, if you're just listening and not watching, Sweet is spelled SUITE, like a suite of rooms. Sweet106bakery.com. Use our discount code Mark T for 15% off at checkout.
Yes. And they obviously have products outside of Valentine's Day, but if you are looking to order for Valentine's Day, order before February 7th.
Yeah.
For shipping.
And they have cookies and brownies that you can order for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But I was clicking around on this website and oh my God, it looks amazing. Like if it's half as good as the pictures, it's wild. They have a Snickers cupcake. Have you tried that one?
We did try that.
Yeah.
It was delicious. Yeah, we tried that. Yeah. And there's another one that also has I'm trying to think, it was like a brownie that also has like a mix of something in it. Like I want to say maybe it's a chocolate with a kind of a blondie brownie thing. That's it. The Brookie 4-pack, maybe that's what it was.
It's so good.
I have to tell you, it's a little bit of, in my mind, a storm of so much magnificence. I love this stuff. I would never speak so effusively. You will love it too. Road test it. Everybody, support this sponsor. She is everything. You will meet her. We'll bring her on the air with us. But Sweet 106 Bakery, there she is. SUITE 106bakery.com. And again, Mark T at checkout for 15% off. We're sending some to Tony too, I think, right?
Oh, nice.
I mean, I don't know, Tony. I've been asking you.
Yeah, she's only asked 15 times for his address, and he hasn't given. Yeah, that's all right. He doesn't want.
Okay.
He doesn't want Homeland Security.
Who's producing this show?
Yeah, all right. Exactly. I am excited.
It's fantastic.
Sweet 106 Bakery, Mark T at checkout for 15% off. Courtney, thank you, and thanks to Sweet 106 Bakery.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kristi.
Yeah, Yay. Kristi, we're excited to have you on soon. So, all right, loved it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Yes, Courtney making her way out of the massive Mark Thompson Show studios to
Sorry, I keep trying to say it because I wanted to tell you how excited I am about this. Sweet106bakery.com. They have, I can order regular at my house. If I want to send something to my niece at UCLA for Valentine's Day, she's vegan. If I have a friend that has celiac, they have gluten-free. They have every option for every person
That
on
is
this website.
so cool.
Yeah, I just want
Thank you for
people to
pointing
know
that out. Yeah.
Please go to the website, sweet106bakery.com, and take a look at, you will be like, I must order now. That's how it is.
Well, Tony, we're trying to get you some too, buddy, but you got to give us your address down there. Tony lives in like a sort of a off the grid situation, so we don't want to, we don't want to. But they do get deliveries because
Sounds
he's
good.
building. Yeah, he's building the better beast down there. So yeah, we really want to get you some of this. So everybody will be very, very happy. So I do want to read some comments because I know they're coming in a lot.
And now, your comments.
Yeah. I'll start with Jim Slayton, who's an OG of the show. Walking dogs in Atherton enjoying the relaxing soundtrack of FIFA tournaments falling apart. And the soccer people are all, why did we sign up for this? This is all before we even came on the air. Jim, thank you for the $10 super chat. There is a interesting thing going on with FIFA. They've given him the
big shout out,
Donald Trump, that FIFA Peace Prize, which one of the most coveted prizes in all the land. And now they're actually talking about World Cup boycotts, and the world of soccer or football is being affected, I guess I'll just use that word, by the politics of America. FYI, just tried to call my senator from California. Message box is full. We'll have to send an email instead, says just Memb. I will tell you that it matters. On Capitol Hill, it matters. Your calls matter. Your emails matter. So never forget that. Lucy McAllister, my favorite McAllister, with a $20 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Thank you. Big shout out to you. We are a crowd-funded show, so we do make a deal out of the people on the show that fund us in the crowd. Victims' families need to bring defamation lawsuits, says Sean. And thank you for the 1089 super chat. This is a serious thing, and I think one of the heinous rhetorical crimes perpetrated by the administration was the smearing and defaming of this heroic guy in his life. He is a hero. He's this ICU nurse at the Veterans Hospital, and he was defamed by the president and by Bovino and by Noem and by all these public officials who are trying to represent every narrative as their guys only responded to a situation that was escalated by an activist, someone who's a troublemaker. So I do think that there is a defamation suit there. Could you win it? I don't know. But I like that you're thinking that way, because it's a horrible thing. It doesn't bring back your son. But his folks wrote, I thought, strongly and appropriately after his death. And the defamation that was real should be answered for. Nullifidian says the Republicans are more concerned about PR than they are about the deaths that they've caused. So they think that replacing Noem in Minnesota with Homan will get them better poll numbers. I do think they're concerned with the narrative more than they are anything. That's why they were out in front on the narrative. So you're right about this. And I think they feel as though Noem's taking on so much political water. It is a bad look. The stink, if you will, from Noem is now getting on Trump and other administration officials to the point that they want less Noem and they want more Homan. Homan, as I've mentioned, and I'll mention it probably every time I talk about Homan, is a corrupt figure, took $50,000 in a bag to dole out favors during the new administration. He was part of an FBI sting. He was stung in that sting, and still, to the best of our ability to investigate it, he's still got that money, and he's still every bit as corrupt as he always was. But he's not Kristi Noem, who's got a stink on her. And so for that reason, he's in the game. But again, corruption, not really a problem for these people. Beam me up, Scotty, or beam me up to Scotty, says, it's a late start for me. I get to watch the best TV intro, Hawaii 5-0 with Jack Lord. The best opener ever. Thanks, The Mark Thompson Show, for starting late. Never change. Love to Minnesota. It is a pretty great open. It's with the wave cresting and about to crash, and then that music from the Ventures. Bam, 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 bam. It's right. It's pretty great. Yeah. So
that's my that's my husband's ringtone whenever I call. Hawaii 5-0.
What? I have to say this. That is a good question. Tony's got it up there. That's over that. I think when was the Hawaii 5-0? Was, I feel like it was the 70s, early 70s, maybe.
I think so.
Early mid 70s.
68.
68. Okay. Oh. I feel as though that's a good question, though. What was the best open? What was the best TV open? You know, and Hawaii 5-0 might, might be. But
there's Cheers. There's Friends.
Right. You can go, but I mean, for pure adrenaline, this is a good one. Right.
A-Team.
A-Team.
Airwolf.
Airwolf. There you go.
Knight Rider.
Yeah. So you have all of these that, all of these that are different, right? Because the Cheers is like a totally different, like almost an anti-adrenaline thing. Hello, everyone. Chaplain Fred says, man's most epic sin is greed. The U.S. leadership is leading this country to the ground, and suffering is at our doors to do. It's greed, I guess, or the greed point is so right on. This is, I think it's a corrupt administration, greedy in the extreme, but with an extreme greed. I get what you're saying. I saw that in Boston, the symbolic. They dumped a lot of ice cubes, not agents, in a symbolic dump. They dumped it into the Boston Harbor to reenact the Boston Tea Party, says Kugo. Did you see that? I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I have to look it up.
Tony might find it. But that's wild. I didn't see that. Thank you for that. I didn't Kilauea just had its 41st eruption, says Hilo Karen.
Now that's crazy video. I mean, twin magma shooting out of the crater up by Volcano National State Park. It's amazing. They've had to close down areas there because the debris was hitting buildings. This doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, Tony, while you're looking for the ice thing, maybe you can find us the Kilauea volcano eruption. I guess it's pretty extraordinary. Kim, born in Hawaii, by the way, for those who don't know. Here is what it looked like. And again, this is the Kilauea eruption, the 41st eruption. Wow, you're right, man.
You can see the double. It shot up from both chambers there. Yeah.
Incredible. The Earth is always evolving, huh?
Later, you could see the lava you see on the screen now if you're watching, and it had smoke and debris flying in all directions. But that's what it looked like when it first rose.
Thanks for hustling that image, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. I greet you, says Art is fine, since I cannot wish you a good evening until it's over. Art is fine gives us 20 euros.
Big shout
out for that.
Thank you.
And thank you, Art is fine. Yes, until the evening is over. I cannot wish you a good evening, is the implication. These officers are ice holes, says Jim Eaton. Yeah, they are. They're their own degree of thugs and thuggishness. These dudes are not trained. They are a pack of pit bulls, says Luis. They're ignoring basic de-escalation and nonviolent physical intervention principles causing this. I was a certified instructor for my department for years, he says. Thanks for the $10 super chat. There's no question but that these guys are not trained in de-escalation. I've called them everything. They are thugs. They are glorified nightclub bouncers. These are guys who played linebacker in high school. These guys are, I think they're looking for a fight. Many are sending me emails saying they're Proud Boys, they're 3%ers. I don't know about that. I don't know that these guys, I can't say that guy who shot him was a Proud Boy. I don't know that. But the attitude that has infiltrated this crew is that any action will be backed by the government, will be covered up by the government. That's scary. My guess now is Kristi Noem will either resign quietly or Trump will fire her to spare himself the embarrassment of her impeachment, says Tony Laudati. That's interesting. I do see her receding from the scene, probably a resignation because she's such a Trumper. But, it's funny. Tony, I sent you poor Tony, I sent him like this avalanche of stuff.
I know.
And we really didn't have a chance to. It's so much stuff that it was a challenge for us to go through it. But one of the things I sent you was Noem back in 2024 talking about her book. Remember she had that book? The book was her effort to kind of establish her profile, strong woman. Let me show you how strong I am. I shot this puppy who couldn't be trained. And then she was confronted about a claim she made in the book that she had met with a lot of very strong men worldwide, I should say, that she had met with a lot of strong men and male figures, dominating, despotic figures, strong men, and that she held her own. Yeah, it was called Not My First Rodeo. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And when confronted about a part of the book during which she claims she dealt with Kim Jong-un there in Korea, she's exposed as having lied in the book. She never met with Kim at all. Here you go.
You talk about meeting some world leaders and one specific one. Quote, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all. Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, I did in the book, though, talk about my meeting with yeah. I show you that just to remind you about the essence of Kristi Noem, which is never to admit error or admit that you weren't telling the truth. There would have been ways to handle that. None of them are particularly flattering, but what she decided to do is just bulldoze ahead in the conversation when she's obviously lied. They did delete that part of the book, if you're curious, in digital copies and then in future printed copies as well. But that's who Kristi Noem is. And as is suggested in the chat by many of you, she may be seeing the sunset on her career in government. I don't know. I mean, this is a crew that has been loath to get rid of anybody. The Hegseth screw-ups where he's on a signal chat and is making all of this unsecured communication open to an Atlantic reporter, then the clear or implied war crimes associated with the Venezuelan boat strikes. I mean, these are all things that could have and did produce a stink, but it didn't lead to his resignation because he's a dogged defender of Donald Trump. And so in an administration that values loyalty above all else, you can understand how they might look the other way on the Noem thing. Like, just let things cool out. It'll be okay, Kristi. You're one of us. So that's the situation. There was rumor that they were going to get rid of Pam Bondi because she wasn't pursuing Trump's enemies strongly enough. He wanted Letitia James nailed, and she couldn't. But that seems to have quelled that whole conversation around that. So we'll see.
Can I ask? Can I get your thoughts on this whole asking of voter rolls? Because we heard that you brought up Bondi, that she wanted voter rolls from Tim Walz. You mentioned this earlier, to end the confrontations with ICE in Minnesota. And we heard that they're requesting the same thing in Arizona. So Minnesota, Arizona, they want the voter rolls. Why do you think that is? Is there some larger sinister reason? Are they just looking for the names of immigrants? Why?
Well, the expressed reason is what you just said, which is that they're looking for the names of immigrants. But the overarching reason can be to manipulate an election, right? If I know all this information about voters, it's much easier for me to manipulate an election. I'll give you probably the most benign version of that, or perhaps the least damaging, and that would be to suppress voters' election rights. That is to say, we've seen it in Georgia. Greg Palast did a whole film about it, and Greg's coming up, I think, in the next few days here on this show. When you talk about voter suppression, you just want to remove the ability of a voter to express their voice through the vote. And you can do that in a number of different ways. So again, these voter rolls could have something to do with that. That would be a way in which you could see an election manipulated as a result of that information that the government now has. But their expressed reason for wanting it is also troubling, which is we want to look for, I mean, they don't put it this way, but it's, for people whose names end in EZ, Gomez, Perez, that kind of thing. We want to check because they, and this is a total fiction as we've detailed on the show many times, they are drawing out the notion that somehow Democrats want illegal residents in America because that will allow those illegals to vote and vote Democrat. I mean, it's an utter fiction. It just, if you were here illegally, I ask you, would you want anything to do with the federal government or with any environment? Let's talk about the polling place that has cops and officials. No. You're here and you want to stay sub rosa. You want to stay under the radar of everyone. So it makes no sense. And there's no real evidence that that's happening in any kind of number. So it's a total fiction, but that's the fiction that they are allowed to pursue if they continue with these kinds of requests. So I think that's behind it. But, you saw also that there are resignations in this administration. The agent from the FBI who was investigating the shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis has now resigned. It was a supervisory position in Minneapolis's field office, and they are hampering, it would seem, that investigation. And the agent who was heading up that investigation, it finally said, hey, I'm out. I mean, if you're not going to let me investigate, then I'm going to resign. It comes after 6 prosecutors with the U.S. Attorney's Office, as you know, in Minnesota also resigned over their concerns about the direction of the investigation, because the investigation has focused not on Renee Good and the shooting, but on Renee Good's partner. Again, they're trying to build a narrative that runs down and somehow justifies this killing in the consciousness of the American public. So there's no civil rights investigation that's going on. Todd Blanche is number 2 at the Justice Department, says we're not going to investigate. So there's a lot going on at the Justice Department that is not about justice. But all right, the last thing I want to just mention is it's related to the detentions, because we showed you that video last week of the detention of little Liam and his dad, and they were spirited off to Texas from Minnesota. And I saw Bovino over the weekend talking about the fact that we have the best child care. We're the envy of all the world in terms of our child care, and many of these units, the detention units, actually very much take care of these children and underage detainees. Well, of course, that's not true. There are lawsuits concerning the conditions in these detention centers. people are dying by the scores in these detention centers. There's documented evidence of rodents and infestations, rats, roaches, insects. There aren't sufficient medical facilities. There was one, I was reading an account of a child who was vomiting and had repeated vomiting episodes. And the doctor turned the child back and said, "Don't come back again unless you vomited 8 times." So all I'm trying to say is there is a narrative. Again, it's Orwellian. Don't believe your eyes. Believe what the state tells you. We have the best child care, and no one takes care of detainees the way we do. Well, that may be true, but not in a good way. And UCLA is reporting that immigration enforcement has increasingly targeted Latino immigrants without criminal convictions, making a sharp shift in detention patterns over the past 2 years. They've looked at this in a way that takes in all the data of detainees thus far. And according to the report, monthly detention of Latinos with no criminal records increased 6-fold compared to the final year of the Biden administration, from about 900 a month to 6,000. Nearly 10,000 in September of 2025, driven largely by arrests where? At workplaces and in public spaces. Again, these are detainees without criminal records or criminal convictions. These aren't murderers. These aren't people who are even operating in any kind of lawless way. Anyway, this is the state of the state, and it's just, to me, it's nauseating. Kim, I will grab a bit of news from you, and I do want and value your comments. So if you have comments on anything I've said, anything seems off to you, I also wanted to play you what the Secretary of State in Arizona, you mentioned Arizona. Mm-hmm. Let me do that real quick, Tony. Do you mind? Just a quick pivot. Adrian Fontes, who's the Secretary of State in Arizona, because Kim mentioned Arizona as one of the places they want voter rolls. Here is his reaction over the weekend to both the latest fatality at the hands of government agents and also a look at what's happening in America right now. Go ahead, Tony, please.
of Justice Pam Bondi. The Department of Justice Pam Bondi just sent a letter to Minnesota state officials telling them, basically trying to blackmail them and saying they will remove ICE officials from the state of Minnesota in exchange for the voter rolls and the sensitive data, which is the same type that I've been protecting here in Arizona, by refusing to turn it over, just like my friend Secretary Steve Simon in Minnesota. Here's the bottom line. A, they're not entitled to that data. B, this isn't leadership. This is blackmail. This is the way organized crime works. They move into your neighborhood, they start beating everybody up, and then they extort what they want. This is not how America is supposed to work. And I'm embarrassed that the administration is pushing in this direction. I'm Adrian Fontes, Arizona Secretary of State, and I'm going to continue to fight against the Department of Justice and their ridiculous and illegal requests for your personal identifying information.
So other states are getting involved. He's proactive in this regard, but as you know, Arizona's on the list, as Kim says. So I thought that was particularly relevant. You're going to have to see this classic showdown between the feds and the state more and more, and you're going to have to see the state leaning in, because clearly the federal government is taking actions that generally far exceed the kind of actions we've seen them take. Again, if they won't even secure a crime scene where someone's been fatally shot, they won't secure it for an investigation? Well, and they're already out front saying our guys did nothing wrong. I mean, even in typical police investigations, there can be two things. Early on, a sense of let's wait to see what the investigation yields in terms of information. But the second thing, and this is starkly missing and does distinguish everything that's happening from what would be a normal scenario. And the second thing is humanity. There is no humanity that's associated with these losses. You've killed 2 people within a couple of weeks on the streets of Minnesota. You can cobble together whatever meekly, tepidly defensible scenario for the first shot in the Renee Good shooting, because he was kind of in the, again, I don't buy it, but I get that a defense attorney might be able to create something. All right. But then the other 2, indefensible. And in this case, to me, start to finish, the thing's indefensible. And it would seem so starkly clear to anyone watching that it's become a problem for this administration. But the one thing you haven't heard is this is a profound tragedy, and our hearts go out to the family. You don't hear any of that from this administration. You hear how horrible he was. This ICU nurse at the vet's hospital, you hear how horrible he was right out in front. All administration officials are saying that. No one's saying this is a profound tragedy and our heart breaks for this family. No one.
Have you seen the video of Mr. Pretti at work, Nurse Pretti, over this veteran who just passed away, giving a prayer? I mean, there's video of, we have the video of it, where he's for the family, for all the people around, for the honor of this veteran who just died. This, I'm sorry, but the what we know about him, videos that are emerging about him and his life, are extremely contradictory to what the Trump administration is trying to paint him as.
He was the best of us. I saw that, and that's one of the things I was referring to when I spoke to Gary Dietrich, that he did a sort of extemporaneous, unplanned memorial service for this veteran who had just passed away in his hospital. And it was moving, and it was significant. This administration, in looking at Pretti's death, doesn't even offer him a similar kind of hats off recognition of the work he's done and the tragedy that his family is enduring. It's a true line that I cannot believe they cannot respect, but they can't. Noem, Bovino, Trump, all of them right out front to tell you how bad he was and how this is a justifiable killing. So, I'll get to your news, Kim, but I did want to mention also that
The Mark Thompson Show.
Can I mention this? I'm very excited that a couple of you sent me emails, and whenever I get an email from you,
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I'm excited, of course. We're the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. And this was related to Zellman's.
Oh.
Zellman's, again, a newer sponsor. And this is only the second week with us, I think. And they're miraculous. We road tested them again for about a month here. Courtney and I road tested Zellman's Minty Mouse. We road tested them with onion. We road tested them with garlic. We road tested them with any kind of food. And I pop 3 at a time. You can, or between 2 and 3. There's a little kind of minty taste, so you can swish that around in your mouth and you get that minty taste. And then you swallow the capsule. And in the capsule, parsley oil and sesame, sunflower
seed.
Yeah, sunflower seed oil. And they found that this, again, natural preparation actually fights bad breath. And they paid for a study, a really expensive study, it's $200,000 to make sure that these claims are demonstrable. And they are. And so our road test and their actual study yielded this terrific result, and I want you to check them out. Zellmans.com, Zellmans.com, and you'll get 15% off your first order with Mark T at checkout. Again, Mark T gets you 15% off. Zellman's Minty Mouth. I always have yeah, Kim's got it. I've always got a pack with me now. And I just took some this morning because I was having some toast with onion and avocado. And I thought, I better hit the Zellmans. And so right after I hit it, and it's extraordinary.
I have to tell you that over the weekend, I went to a memorial service for a family friend. And, and when you go to these things, there's a lot of hugs. There's a lot of leaning in close to, talk in hushed tones to people. And you're close to people, as you hug and offer condolences and whatnot. And I was grateful that I had Zellmans in my purse. I popped 3 of them before I went in, had minty taste in my mouth. And then, it's kind of like the consistency of almost like a gummy in a way. But then you get to that consistency. It means the minty part is gone and you swallow it. There was no like, oh my gosh, am I too close to these people? Am I,
right. It gives you peace of mind.
That. Total confidence. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah,
I was grateful.
And again, you find yourself in all these situations. You don't know when it's going to, you'll be particularly grateful. Physical therapy, some appointment with the chiropractor or the whatever spa person.
Yes.
Where you're in a closer kind of. What is that, Tony? That's when you're closer. Proximity is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, the idea is that Zellmans will really help you. All right, 15% off your first order. Zellmans.com. Order today. Here was the email that I wanted to read.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Hi, Mark. I just wanted you to know that I ordered Zellmans mints on Friday, and today got a personalized video from Jared at Zellmans thanking me for the order.
That's so nice.
I used the Mark T discount code. Talk about customer service. I'll reply to his email once I've received the mints, and I'm sure I will enjoy them. That's from Lynn, who is a Patreon subscriber to the show.
Nice.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you for supporting our sponsors, and I think you'll really, as I say, you'll enjoy everything that we tell you about. We don't bring it on the air unless we've actually road tested it. So there you have it. All right, smash the like button. Thank you, Zellmans. Thank you, all of you, for being
with
here.
Your iron rod.
Let's get a quick sense of what's happening to the hour. Kim's News, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The headline on CNN at this hour, Governor Tim Walz says Trump has agreed to consider reducing the number of agents in Minnesota. That after what appears to be a successful phone call between the two. The President Trump had said he had a good call with Governor Walz today. Both men would like to make it better after this weekend shooting of Alex Pretti. Trump also confirmed to Walz he's sending his border czar, Tom Homan, to the state. The president's post comes on the same day Minnesota officials are in federal court trying to stop the ongoing ICE operations that have seen 2 deaths and widespread demonstrations in the bitter cold. A report says there is a body-worn camera video of the fatal ICE shooting of Alex Pretti in Minneapolis. NBC News says the Department of Homeland Security is confirming the footage, and investigators say they're currently reviewing video taken from multiple angles. This in addition to the street-level cell phone video that we've already seen. Republican Congressman James Comer supports removing immigrations and customs enforcement personnel from Minnesota to keep them out of harm's way. During a recent interview on Fox News' Sunday Morning Futures, Comer said, "If I were President Trump, I would almost think about, okay, if the mayor and governor are going to put our ICE officials in harm's way and there's a chance of losing more innocent lives, then maybe go to another city," is what he said. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson and Attorney General Nick Brown have told Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem that if federal agents work outside the Constitution, they will take legal action to stop it. Ferguson says a memo was sent by Homeland Security to ICE agents telling them to use force to enter homes without a warrant. Ferguson says if that happens, agents will be held accountable. Ferguson also says he talked with the leader of the National Guard, and they will take whatever steps are necessary to protect the citizens of Washington state. 7 people are dead after a private jet carrying 8 people crashed in the state of Maine. That's according to an FAA incident report, which noted that the pilot survived this crash. Officials at Bangor International Airport say emergency crews responded to the accident when the private jet went down during takeoff last night. California suing the Trump administration after it approved oil pipelines near our state's coast. The state argues the administration has unfairly given Sable Offshore Corporation permission to restart the pipelines because of oversight of the pipelines is controlled by California, not the federal government. Approval for the pipelines comes as part of the White House's broader push to expanding offshore drilling, including off of California's coast. The White House is accusing California Democrats of fighting against Trump's energy dominance agenda and putting partisan politics over common sense.
And once again, though, you've got feds against the state. I mean, you're going to see this just across the board. They're trying to flex from the feds everywhere in every way. And again, you see another example of it in California.
And yet another example of it, a federal judge is ruling against the Trump administration's freeze on $5 billion in funding for the build-out of electric vehicle chargers. The judge ruled in favor of 20 states, as well as the District of Columbia, which filed a lawsuit after the Department of Transportation suspended an EV charger infrastructure program enacted by Congress in 2021 under former President Biden. According to the judge, a Trump administration letter sent to revoke those plans went beyond the Trump administration's authority.
This is something that was done early on in the administration, and it really is reprehensible. I get it. You don't like the programs and the grid laid down, the infrastructure associated with Joe Biden. But the kneecapping of those programs, you're now forcing a court case. It's more money to defend it. The government has to defend this position from Trump. There are representatives of both private and public organizations in the state, et cetera, that they have to now go to court over it. This was mandated and funded. Just do it. But more and more, this administration, they've got a death grip on this destruction of that which preceded them. And I understand redirecting. I understand the pivot, but I don't support it, but I understand it. But this idea that you're going to go back and try to blast out stuff that was already approved and funded, it's just reprehensible.
The IRS starts accepting tax returns today as filing season gets underway. Federal returns for 2025 need to be filed by April 15th in order to avoid penalties and interest. Southwest Airlines' long-standing open seating policy is coming to an end tomorrow. The airline first announced plans to end the policy in 2024 as a way of meeting changing customer preferences. According to Southwest, customers booking flights are now instructed to select from 3 seating options, and the type of seat a passenger purchases will determine when they board or whether they're eligible for other perks.
I was on a Southwest recently, look, within the last month, just to run down, there was a night trip to Las Vegas for somebody celebrating something, and I have this neck issue, and I need this neck traction device, okay? So this traction device is just a little too cumbersome to fit in an overhead bag or whatever you want to call it, so I have to check a bag is the point. But that's the reason I had to check it. So it's really kind of empty except for this thing that tractions my neck I got to do in the morning, got to do in the evening. Anyway, so I get to Southwest. I hadn't checked a bag on Southwest, I guess, in so long. How long has been $35 to check a bag?
Oh, that's been going on for a while, and it's not just Southwest.
But I thought Southwest used to be free.
No.
And no, I knew that they had given that up, but I didn't know how much it was. $35? When did Southwest Airlines?
Isn't it? It's $50 on some other airlines, and I think only.
Really?
Yeah. I think I want to say United, but I haven't flown in a while. I don't know.
When did it start charging for bags? Let me just ask. May 28th, 2025. $35 for the first bag, $45 for the second. Wow.
Yeah.
Since May of last year. How much is the typical charge for a checked bag?
If it's over 50 pounds, you have to pay as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
35 to 40 is typical. Second bag usually costs 45 to 60. So you're right. Yeah. And wow.
They're gonna get you however they can.
Man.
They want all the extras added on and added on. They're gonna get you coming and going.
Yeah.
The Patriots will battle the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, California on February 8th. The Patriots outlasting the Broncos 10-7 in a snowy AFC Championship game from Denver to advance. Over in the NFC, the Seahawks took down the Rams 31-27 from Seattle Sunday, securing their spot in the big game for the first time since falling to New England in Super Bowl 49.
You know, the Denver New England game was really good until the weather hit. And then, as a friend of mine said, yeah, then the game was done. Like the game was just not a game anymore. It's just like now, you know, who can stand there, hold the ball, and hold a lead? It's very, very true. It's a shame that these most important games in the football season, if I can just be sports talk for a second, it's a shame that they all get into the winter months and played in the elements that have nothing to do, if you will, with excellence per se. In other words, you know, the premium is on things that have nothing to do with the way you've played and what's gotten you to that point. All of a sudden, there's a new external being entered into it, and that's the weather. And so the weather becomes so bad that it just, you know, that the game would be almost called off in any other circumstance. It's just, you know, you can't see. The wind is blowing. So now all of those things that define excellence as a ball player and as a football team, they become almost immaterial. You have a lead and you're likely going to hang on to it because no one's going to be able to do anything. Now, I'm sure some will say, well, that's part of the game. You know, you've got to be able to go up against the elements. But I've always felt that it's a problem, that a one and done. Like, it's not just a game during the regular season. The one and done aspect of this part of the playoffs, it's I hate to have it determined by the externals like this. You know, That's always how it's been, though. I get it.
They also lost a quarterback and had a backup starting the game. They were in bad footing from the beginning.
No, it's true. Although their backup quarterback wasn't bad. He probably throws a better ball than their starting quarterback. I think that's what was so surprising. Their backup quarterback threw a 53-yard completion in the beginning of the game. I love the weather being a factor in football.
Whoops.
I don't know. To me, it just. I felt, by the way, this isn't just football or me being an NFLer. I've always felt this in tennis too. One of the things, I was a big tennis fan and still am, and always just loved playing tennis. I can't play anymore because of injuries and stuff. But that, literally the sun is shining where the ball is being tossed, and that's part of your challenge. You have to serve the ball into the sun, in the wind, and people say, well, that's part of the game. I get it. I just hate the fact that that's so much a part of the game. And here, all I would say is I hate the fact that it becomes the thing. Essentially, it ends the game because the excellence that brought these two teams to this place is now completely overtaken by the variable that no one really could have anticipated. It's going to happen, but you don't expect that it's going to derail the game this way. So, anyway.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, it's still about 2 weeks away, but Budweiser is already giving fans a look at their ad that will air during the big game. And it doesn't disappoint. It's just what you expect from them. The beer company releasing its 60-second Super Bowl commercial online today, featuring a Clydesdale and a bald eagle as Leonard Skinner's Freebird plays in the background.
Wow.
The company says it knew it had to rise to the occasion with this year's spot with the celebration of Budweiser's 150th anniversary and America's 250th birthday. So,
man,
there you go. NBC, by the way, announced back in September that it sold out its inventory of Super Bowl ad spots earlier than ever. So it's going to be jam-packed full of interesting ads.
Yeah, the one ad that's running now that I really like is that, I don't know if it's for Silverado. That's the problem, I don't remember what the it's with John Krasinski. Have you seen that ad, Tony?
Yeah.
Where he's driving And he goes, yeah, every time I get in the car, it's like a movie. And then he's driving this big SUV. It's not a Silverado, but it's something like that. Anyway, then a guy jumps on the roof of the car, and the guy next to him goes, "That's a guy on the roof? That's a real guy?" He goes, "Yeah, it happens every time I drive." And then somebody else, a woman, jumps out of the hood of the car, and she's like right in the windshield, and he goes, "Oh my God, what?" And then he does one of these hard turns, and she falls off the car, and he goes. The passenger says, "Geez, is she going to be all right?" And he says, "Oh yeah, she's always all right. It's not a problem." It was as though like every time you drive the car, it's like a movie.
An action flick, yeah.
And
Hyundai.
it's got a really,
It's for Hyundai.
Hyundai, thank you. It's a great button out too at the end of the spot. It's really, really funny. Yeah, that was the one spot that I thought, wow, really strong. But yeah, the Super Bowl commercials are terrific. I've always wanted to. I had one voiceover in a Super Bowl commercial, and I always wanted, another one, but never have been able to get it. I've had promos that have run, and I've been, on Super Bowl with voiceover stuff. But I always wanted to be the voiceover on one of those, really special commercials, and I've never really done that except once many years ago. It was for Payday candy bars. You can bet the MAGA will have their propaganda ads. Pro-democracy billionaires better have theirs. Yeah, it's interesting. CC Ryder makes a good point. I'm sure there'll be some slots that have been sold to a lot of, pro-MAGA. You know who's got great commercials? Jesus. Have you seen those Jesus commercials?
No.
Oh, man. You've seen them, right, Tony? They're really good.
Really weird, yeah.
Yeah, they're weird, but they get you,
What is that? What are they advertising?
Jesus.
Oh, go to church?
Yeah, like embrace the Lord.
Oh,
you know what
okay.
I mean? I don't
Doesn't
remember.
That go against isn't that sacrilegious? I mean, that seems weird.
Probably. I mean, there's I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot sacrilegious that happens in the Lord's name or whatever.
God bless America.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The end.
Right.
All right, a couple more stories for you. Kanye West is apologizing for his past anti-Semitic remarks, taking a full-page ad out in Monday's Wall Street Journal, declaring, "I am not a Nazi or an..."
Did I lose you guys?
Led to his bipolar diagnosis, which then caused him to lose touch with reality and say and do things he deeply regrets. He ended his apology by saying he aspires to earn forgiveness. He kind of seems to do that. He goes back in and out of it,
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney is reportedly promoting the launch of her new lingerie line with a legally dicey move. Apparently, there she is, TMZ.
Girl, you just woo.
Yeah.
Obtained video of Sweeney climbing the iconic Hollywood sign in Southern California to lace it with bras. And according to the outlet, Sweeney's team only got permission to film the sign while the undergarments were taken down after the shoot, just a few left behind. Sweeney did not receive permission to touch or climb on the sign itself, and that could put her in legal jeopardy for criminal trespass and or vandalism. Still unknown if the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce plans to file a police report. Yeah, you're not supposed to. You got permission to film it, not climb it, and hang panties from it. Come on, Sydney.
Yeah, come on, Sydney.
Come on. The only thing that's gonna get me,
Yeah, okay.
the only thing that's going to get me through this day is Coachella Valley Coffee.com. The vanilla tea, gotta have it, and I can't wait to sip it along with my sweet 106 bakery items. But
oh yeah,
gotta have the tea. This is where we all begin. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The tasting notes are really good and almost poetic as well. Check it out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. They have coffees, they have teas, they have spices, they have some merch. Mark loves the coffee. I really love the tea. All their teas are just so good. Sipping music.
I'm drinking from my Peacefully Resist mug, which is has our tasteful logo on the back side. But yes, it's true. I do love it. I start every day with it, then I continue every evening with it. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark T at checkouts gets you 10% off. I've never been associated with a product that has received such overwhelming positive review as Coachella Valley Coffee.
This makes me seem like a really bad mother, but my husband taught my son how to make vanilla tea for me And he does it now all the time because he knows it puts me in a better mood. Jacob will make my vanilla tea and give it to me and wait till I take a couple of sips before he says, Mom, can I play Roblox?
Oh, that's really funny.
Right? I know.
I love it. Well,
this is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Yeah, you better watch it, Kim.
The code is MarkT at checkout. Gets you 10% off at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Love it.
Put that
coffee down.
Yeah,
This is the Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to make sure, I don't know, I don't watch the comments as carefully as I would like to during the show. I kind of let Kim do that. So I'll get here to a couple of comments here at the end of the show.
And now, your comments.
Right. I already read this comment.
Okay. I didn't know.
I will have to, I read, no, I haven't read Richard Delamater's, which is the Trump show has already made me barf
8 times.
Wow. That's in relation to that detention center saying don't come back unless you've barfed 8 times. Yeah. Pretty brutal. Yeah. I didn't know this. Mark, those Jesus ads are partially funded by the Hobby Lobby founder.
Good Lord.
But I would say, good Lord, I get it. Yeah, I got to.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
I would say that, I don't know. They work. I try to be honest. The Jesus ads work. So, I mean, work in that they're good ads. They don't get you necessarily to go, Snow day today, I get to watch you on a big screen, says Richard. Right on, V. Richard. Good beans, drink Coachella coffee. Remember, you are what you drink. You are a good bean, says Underdog, if you drink Coachella Valley coffee. CT Ryder says, I agree, Mark, about the Jesus ads last 2 years during the Super Bowl. They had high production value. They're really good. Yeah. But I'm not sure, who funds them. I guess in part Hobby Lobby people. Obviously, people are for Jesus. That doesn't surprise me. But in any case,
you're down to 5% battery.
Okay.
I missed that one. That's awesome.
Yeah. Jesus would be deported if he returned. That's probably right, Ole Hansen. You're right. I don't know how Jesus would do in the new America. It would be pretty rough. But I am saddened that we must wrap up. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to bump to tomorrow that I wanted to get to today. I boycott Hobby Lobby, said somebody. Yeah, I mean, I think they're boycottable. V. Richard, yeah, I don't blame you. I just saw that movie Sinners last night, by the way. It's good. I mean, I guess it's gory, I guess it's gory, yeah. But it's really good. And it got more nominations than any other movie in history is, from what I was reading. Anyway, thanks, Mark, Kim, and Tony, says Liz. Thank you all. Tomorrow, the brilliant David K. Johnston will weigh in on so much of what's happening with America. We will talk about Department of Homeland Security funding, what may happen in the Senate, and the aftermath of the ICE and
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Border Patrol shootings. So, out of time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everybody. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.